Good evening. I'm Mike Lewis. I'm running for re-election for the Manchester City School Board. Manchester City Schools has a legacy of excellence, leadership, and scholarship. And I have a real desire and a calling to help continue that legacy. I want to continue supporting those who've chosen to dedicate themselves to the growth and development of our children. The last 4 years have been a little challenging with the Manchester City Schools. When I began on the board, Dr. Powell was the director of schools, and Prater's here somewhere. That was when I was first elected. Following that, Dr. Brewer came in for a couple of years. Sandra Morris was the director of school, and now I'm proud to announce that we have Lee Wilkerson as our director of schools. Yet through all those challenges and some of the, just through all the challenges the Manchester City Schools family has encountered, we've excelled, resulting in the Tennessee Department of Education recognizing Manchester City Schools as an exemplary school district. We are one of 12 selected in the state of Tennessee. We are a school district known for excellence and scholarship. I love our system and I love our community, and I just ask that you would vote for me for school board so that I could continue that legacy.
Next question will be Jim Lemmons.
First of all, I'd just like to thank Thunder Radio and Manchester Times for putting this on. I think this is a great service to the community. I appreciate it, guys. I am Jim Lemmons. A little bit about me. I'm a lifelong Coffee County resident. Moved to Manchester 20 years ago. I married my wife, Valerie. She and all 4 of my kids either went through or are going through the Manchester school, so I've got to see firsthand that Manchester does have an exemplary system. I'm a small business owner. I'm on the leadership team at church, and I'm a dad. So I have a lot of experience with setting goals, keeping priorities, making things happen, doing a budget, things like that. So I would like a chance to use those experiences to better Manchester schools. Like I say, I think it's a good system. It's an asset to the community. The whole community is better because we have a good system, and I want to see it continue to grow. Thank you.
That was Jim Lemmons. Next up is Dana Douglas.
Good evening. My name is Dana Douglas. I'm running for City School Board. I've got 4 children in the system. Well, had 4 children come through the system. 2 of them come through. 2 of them still in it. Moved to Manchester 14 years ago. 12 years ago, Tennessee 14 years ago. I found Manchester, went to work for the city. I've worked there now for 12 years. And my roots and my family in the city. Found the Lord here. I renewed my relationship with Him. Coached ball here. It's a great community, great system. And I'd like to get back to putting the kids first. And that's the main reason I'm running. I think somewhere along the line that's been lost. So I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Dana Douglas. We'll start off with our first question. This will go to Mr. Lewis. We'll stay in the same order, and then we'll change orders, go back through. Also worth noting, I forgot to mention at the opening, we have one more candidate for this race, and that is Susan Parsley. She could not attend tonight. Out of these 4 candidates, you will be able to select 2 for 2 seats. First question goes to Mr. Lewis. According to the Tennessee Comptroller, Manchester City School District spent $11,992 per pupil in the 2014-2015 school year, and that ranks Manchester number 1 in public school districts in the state of Tennessee. Do you feel that number is appropriate, or do you feel that could be reduced?
Well, I'm not really familiar with that particular number. I will say I am proud of Manchester City School personnel who work to bring in extra dollars, whether that, and a lot of the money that is additional to what other school systems have come because of grants that folks work on. We have folks across the board in both elementary schools, the middle school, central office. We have the lady in charge of nursing who's worked to bring in some grant money to the city school system. in areas that really don't affect her, but she's been there and folks have come together as a team to help bring that money in. I'm not apologetic that we value our students and our community so well that we use every dollar we can find to invest in our children. I think that's rather a compliment.
Thank you. Thank you. That was Mike Lewis. Next is, sorry about that. Go ahead, Lucky.
Okay. Mr. Lemmons, do you need the question repeated again?
If you wouldn't mind.
Okay. According to the Tennessee Comptroller, Manchester City School District spent $11,992 per pupil in the 2014-15 school year, which ranks Manchester as the #1 public school district as it relates to spending per pupil. Do you feel that number is appropriate, or do you feel it could be reduced?
Well, I think that says a lot for Manchester, like Mr. Lewis said. What more can you say that the city wants to spend more than anybody else on their kids? Is it too much? That's a good question. The flip side of educating our children well is always the burden on the taxpayer. I think we need to review all spending. It definitely doesn't hurt. We don't know. We've been doing something for so many years. That doesn't mean we need to keep doing it. Is it still effective? Are there places we can save? I think those are things that need to be reviewed, but I agree with Mr. Lewis. I don't think anybody should hang their head because they spent too much on education.
Thank you, Mr. Lemmons. Dana Douglas?
All right, next up is Dana Douglas. Do you need that repeated, or think you got it?
I think I've got it.
Go ahead.
Definitely, to me, that's a concerning number. If it's reducible, then that's something that needs to be looked at and reviewed through the budget. I've looked over it recently some, not been able to go through all of it, but I'm willing to sit down with other board members to see where, if there's cuts that can be made, then make them, but if not, absolutely, our children are worth that money. And everybody should be willing to spend money on their children and the children in the community as a whole. Excuse me, my children, personally, I think they're worth it. But, a lot of that, that money, a lot of it's salary for teachers, but to get a better education, you gotta have better teachers. So, are we willing to spend that money on our teachers and our children? That's something we need to, the community needs to ask itself as a whole, are our children worth it? I think they are. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Dana Douglas. Our next question will start off with Jim Lemmons. All right, Mr. Lemmons, what are your feelings about expanding the Manchester City school system to possibly include a high school?
Well, I've obviously talked to a lot of parents and am one, and I've never heard a parent say they don't want a high school. Most of the parents would like to have their kids go to high school in the same system where they've gone through the other grades. It just makes sense. It makes life easier, but also they can have a consistent experience all the way through. The other side of that, of course, is that's a big expense. Can we afford it? What will it cost? How long will it take? I can't answer those questions right now. It'll take a long time and it'll cost a lot of money. But if it's something Manchester wants, then we need to start looking into it. It would take a lot of work with the alderman, the mayor, even coordinating with the county. But I think it would make Manchester a better city overall. It would only be an asset. Again, are we willing to live with the expense? That's just something that has to be decided by the city. Thank you.
It's Jim Lemmons. Dana Douglas? All right, for our radio audience, we're going to repeat the questions to you, so we'll go ahead and do that now. What are your feelings about expanding the Manchester City school system to include a high school?
A high school, if it's needed, I think these are the types of things where it gets down to wants versus needs. If it's something that's needed, then by all means, it's something that we need to look at and look towards the future. And obviously, it's not something that can happen overnight, but it's going to have to be a group effort to make that happen and to come up with that funding for that, because obviously it's going to be a great expense, which is going to put even further tax burden on the citizens in the community. A city high school, I think it would be great if the funds are there and the need is there for it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Dana Douglas. Next is Mike Lewis. Same question. What are your feelings about expanding the Manchester City school system to include a high school?
I've had 3 children go through the Manchester City school system as well. Our family, our children love the Manchester City school system, and nothing would have made me happier several years ago than to have had the option for my children to continue the tradition and the education they've received in Manchester City schools all the way through their high school years. The reality is, not sure tax-wise, financially, if that is in the works or not. I believe in goals. I believe in dreams. I believe that our community is in a posture of tremendous growth. I think there are announcements coming in the next few weeks to excite all of us about the opportunities coming to our community. I think it's a discussion that we need to have that would involve all the information that we could gather.
All right, thank you.
Dana goes next. Dana Douglas will be the first one to take this question. And this seems to be a question that comes up from time to time. Would the school system consolidation be a responsible and reasonable solution to education spending in our county?
Short answer, no. I don't think it would be. You're still looking at funding issues and tax burdens. It won't take a tax burden off of the city residents, so we're still going to have to pay county taxes. So where's that? I mean, there's so much that I think would be involved in that. You're talking about families, children, which that's what I'm here for, is the children, putting the children first. We're talking about moving the children to a different system that's going to affect the families. We're talking about jobs with the teachers, a whole conglomerate of things that I think need to be considered in that. So I don't look to it as being a conducive idea. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That was Dana Douglas. Next up is Mike Lewis. Same question. Would school system consolidation be a responsible and reasonable solution to education spending in our county?
All right, Dana's answer, no. And no. I don't believe it's reasonable and I don't believe it's responsible. And let's just call it what it would really be. It would be abolishing the Manchester City schools. I don't want to lose any part of our Manchester City community. Abolishing the city school system would be the first step in losing our identity as a community. When the discussion first began about abolishing Manchester City schools, there were a couple of questions that were asked repeatedly that were never answered. The first question was, will my city taxes be reduced? The second question was, will the county taxes be increased? The third question was, who will continue to pay the debt service on the buildings that Manchester City Schools now operate out of? The answer to those questions in a roundabout way came that no, your city taxes would not be reduced even though we gave away the school system. Yes, your county taxes would be required to be increased to cover the cost of the schools. And third, the city residents of Manchester would be saddled with a mortgage on buildings that were given to the county. That's not a good option in any approach or any viewpoint that I've been able to determine. So no.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lemmons? Would school system consolidation be a responsible and reasonable solution to the education spending in our county?
Well, I think we can just break down the question a little bit. Will city taxes go down? No. Will county taxes go up? Yes. Is there a plan? No. I never saw a plan from anybody about how we're even going to make it happen. Could we save money a decade from now? Yes, probably. But is that the best thing for Manchester? It's hard to find a lot of people that say it is. I don't think the kids say it is, the parents, the teachers. As I've said, and I think everybody else has said, Manchester's stronger for having a strong school system, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lemmons. Final question for this group. We'll start with Mr. Lewis. Just a reminder to everyone, this was one of our best years for question submissions. This was, almost all of our questions would come from submissions. We didn't have to generate but maybe one out of our entire group for the evening. So the community was very excited to participate.
And thank everybody.
And this is one we got today and added to the end. Do you support or oppose standards that are aligned with Common Core?
I support standards and excellence in education, as in any industry. Anybody that's in here that works in any setting, there are standards that we all have to meet. Common Core, I'm not so sure about. Do we all need to be accountable? Yes. The teachers need and schools need to be accountable? Yes. Is there any group of folks that work with the public or the community or anybody? Does everybody need standards and responsibility? Yes. Do we need to spend all of our teachers spend the majority of their time worrying about a test that children are going to bubble in that someone somewhere else is going to determine whether they're a good teacher or not? No. I don't believe that. I had great teachers growing up all through school. There are tremendous teachers in this community that can't be identified by pencil marks on paper.
Thank you. Mr. Lemmons? Do you support or oppose standards that are aligned with Common Core?
I think this leads into a challenge that our schools have right now. I've sat through board meeting after board meeting where half the votes are about things that are not optional. It's a state mandate. It's a federal mandate. You have to vote for it. Do our teachers need to be accountable? Yes. Do kids have to have tests? Yes. But does filling in a bubble, as he said, prove that that teacher did her job? No. I think there needs to be a whole lot more common sense, and I know there's not a lot we can do to get around state and federal mandates, but we need to look into every avenue possible where we have more control so that we can educate our kids the way we know they need to be educated, not the way some bureaucrat in Washington thinks they need to be educated, who probably has never educated a child in their life.
Thank you. Mr. Lemmons?
Mr. Douglas?
Same question to Mr. Douglas. Do you support or oppose standards that are aligned with Common Core?
As the previous two gentlemen stated, you know, I don't think it's that easy of a question to answer when you're receiving state and federal money. You know, you can't just disagree with it. You know, we're sat here and talked about budgetary numbers earlier and how much we're spending per child. If we were to stop losing, if we lost that state and federal money, then you think you're paying your tax rates high now, that money's got to be replaced from somewhere. So, you know, I think it's, you know, our teachers do a great job. They're great teachers. They spend time with their children and on both ends of the spectrum. And I think for that reason, I think we just need to have a common sense approach instead of Common Core. So.
Mr. Douglas, if you want to just stay up there, we'll allow 30 seconds for closing remarks, and this should keep us on schedule. So Dana Douglas for this closing remarks of the evening.
Again, I'm Dana Douglas, obviously. Hard-working citizen of the city of Manchester. I want to see our children succeed in the community, and I'm willing to put my feet forward to make things happen and work with the board, the staff, the parents and open up some transparency all the way around so that, you know, when things need to happen, they can happen. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Mr. Lemmons, right? Or Mr. Lewis? Which one are you next? Go ahead. Lost track. We'll go with Mike Lewis. Let's close your remarks.
Thank you. Again, I'm Mike Lewis. I've been a part of this community a long time. Been part of the school system as a volunteer, as a parent, as the husband of a teacher. And I would like for you to consider to allow me to continue to serve our community. In the past 4 years, I think you've seen me as someone who's candid, open, and honest with our community and our leaders and our staff, and I'd like a chance to continue that. To folks that are voting, I'd also encourage you to listen closely to the mayor and alderman candidates regarding their support of the city school systems. And I would encourage you to only vote for those who will stand in front of you and strongly voice support for the Manchester City Schools.
I just want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. It says a lot when the people come out to know who they're voting for. As we've talked about, we're spending a lot on kids. We need to review that. We need to make sure that we're spending the right way on the right things, and we need to, if we're spending the most, we need to have the best education. Our kids need to have the best education in the state if we're spending the most in the state. So I'd like to ask you for your vote. Give me an opportunity to use my experiences and use my my dedication to the system to just make it better. Thank you.